Good morning, everyone. Brian here again with BMK Retro Gaming. Not too usual for you guys to get a third video in the week from me. Happens occasionally, but we do have a bit of a special occasion this time around. I'm here to welcome everybody to the inaugural RetroTide 2022. Now, as some may recall, I inaugurated Retrotober in 2021, which is basically themed around Halloween, Samhain, and the basic October holiday season, which is my favorite. Well, what RetroTide is celebrating, well, we'll get into it in a second. But anyway, back in the day, in ancient times, in especially the Germanic peoples and such, and some other Europeans, and since have celebrated what they call Yule, or Yuletide. It was kind of a predecessor to our modern-day Christmas traditions, really. Commonly, they would go ahead and, it would be a time of togetherness. They would get together and drink toasts to themselves, each other, and pretty much anything else they could think of. And back then, people had not really figured out, like we know today, about making drinking water potable and safe to drink. So alcohol was a common thing to drink anyway, so hey, except for perhaps liver and kidney disease, no real chance of getting sick. Anyway, they'd do that. They would also exchange gifts. They would usually at home have a special log called a Yule log they would burn. They would kind of decorate trees sometimes, but usually outdoors. They didn't really bother to bring them indoors. It was a lot of, very similar to a lot of stuff that carried over into our modern day Christmas Day traditions. And, of course, sometime, perhaps a little later on, during the Roman Empire and the times of Jesus Christ, the Christian traditions of Christmas came up about. Of course, these days, working backwards through astronomy and all, things like that, the Star of Bethlehem is actually an alignment of, I forget if it's Venus, and I forget what other planet or two goes in there, and it looks a lot like a star, but it generally happens in the summer. As a matter of fact, some years ago it happened again for the next time it did in 2,000 years, so we kind of figured out now that more or less Christ would probably have been born during the springtime, somewhere abouts, whereas, as everything, Europe and everything was being Christianized later on, well, they chose to kind of, change some dates and change some things up and mingle traditions with the Christian traditions with the older pagan traditions to make the transition easier. They wanted to proselytize over to Christianity. Well, a lot easier if you're basically still celebrating the same way you mostly have, with very little changed. So, he was probably born more or less in springtime, but, we celebrate in December. And, sometime later on in Europe, the actual real who lived St. Nicholas would come about, and from him we'd get the legends and everything, the traditions that come along with, like, say, Santa Claus, which, think about Klaus, another more or less German or Germanic-derived Christmas tradition, and really, as far as Christmas and all goes, depending on where you're at in the world, there are many different Santa Claus figures and such, in the traditions, so it's pretty diverse. And, of course, then there's the aspect that's very important to us here, especially back in the original library days for video games, toys, and such. A lot of video games would be released, they'd be in a rush to be worked on, say, like, remember the Atari VCS 2600 Pac-Man, or E.T. the Extraterrestrial, to be out for the holiday shopping season, Christmas shopping season, which usually means somewhere they'd probably start showing up, being available anywhere from sometime in mid to late September to October, November, December, And of course, still, there are a lot of games, pro-brew and homebrew, like the one I'm going to feature this next Sunday, Toy Shop Trouble, which have still been themed around and are are pretty much seasonal for this particular time of year. And that's basically what RetroTide is going to be about. We're going to be celebrating, Yule or Yuletide, Christmas, and basically the December holiday season, and as particularly as it relates to video games. I'm going to try my best to feature, whether it's original library, prototype, probrew, or homebrew review that's themed around games that would fit with that, where possible. Toy Shop Trouble is the first one I have up, and do have another or so in the works, but even if this turns out to be the only one this year, it's our first RetroTide, so no need to really overdo it. I mean, kind of like those that would be themed good for Retrotober, there's a lot that you can pick from that would probably fall into the category pretty easily, but, one or two, something like that. I don't have to overdo it, so. Anyway, that's what it's going to be, and we're going to go ahead and get into it and use that as our way of celebrating this season. So I'm here, that's going to be BMK Retro Gaming's way of doing it. Doesn't have to be anything too special. There will still be the regular reviews and other videos that'll be coming out too, as would happen with Retrotober, But anyway, that's what this video is all about. Welcoming everyone to the inaugural RetroTide 2022. And like Retrotober, it'll be a tradition I'll continue carrying over into following years for the appropriate seasons. So just wanted to let you guys know about that and get that out of the way. I figured today's December 1st. Perfect time to go ahead and announce it and get it inaugurated, so why not? Anyway, don't want to drag this out for too long. If you enjoy my channel's content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and please don't hesitate to leave any questions, comments, suggestions down in the comment section below. You guys take care, have a wonderful Thursday, and I should hopefully see you guys again with the review, again, of Toy Shop Trouble, homebrew game review on Sunday. See you then.